Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of September 21st, 2020. In terms of the predictions for the stock market direction, I believe this will be a down week overall, and my prediction is pretty much down for every day of the week. With the highlights as to what to expect for individual days, for Monday the 21st, I think that there may be some increased focus globally on either clarification of some financial issue or perhaps identifying a source of funding and or some additional or increased news about like gold prices, oil prices, or a price of some medicine or some pharmaceutical or some treatment. And the issues that are brought up on this day, on Monday the 21st, they may somehow be revisited, or there may be follow-up events on Friday the 25th. Also for this period from about 21st of September to the 4th of October, and especially very end of September, so like the September 29th through very early first couple of days of October, this particular time period may be especially stressful, and globally there is an increased probability of either major disasters, earthquakes, like large earthquakes, mudslides, or perhaps accidents, and those particularly may involve athletes and or some sort of like either wall or a tall say building or a mountain. So previously during a similar transit, for example, we had an athlete who was, I guess, participating in a bicycle race fall off of a mountain. So, or maybe a racer who, the car goes too fast and perhaps crashes into a wall. So something that's moving really fast and then falls off either off of the height or comes to an abrupt stop. And at the same time, there may also be increased anti-governmental protests or protests against some heads of, say, large corporations. There's also increased probability of fires, explosions, and attacks, and again, especially on either governmental officials, corporate officials, or buildings where those corporate entities or governmental entities reside. And that's globally, like I said, this stressful time from between, like I said, about this week into early October. For US, the days of like Monday, Tuesday, September 21st and 22nd may see some mildly negative news about businesses that are related to transportation and communication, and that may have to do with either agreements that they're engaged in or partnerships. So this could be something like bad publicity, or negotiations are not quite going as expected, or there may be concerns about debt, bankruptcies, problems with taxes, insurance, some financial manipulations that are not that somehow something wasn't recorded correctly, some accounting issues, etc. And also for US, and that's just for the Monday, Tuesday, then the same time period as I just mentioned being stressful globally, so September 21st through October 4th, and again with kind of increased emphasis on the very end of September and the very first couple of days of October. For the US, this also is going to be a stressful period, and in the US we may see increased focus on any sort of financial issues, financial institutions. This includes banks, of course, and also any sort of financial policies, news about rates, debt, loans, taxes, insurance, and also, of course, the stock market. So anything that's like an investment where money needs to be borrowed perhaps to be invested, or the investment is in, into something that basically represents the money that has been borrowed. And the issues that may arise is there may be concerns about manipulations, illegal payments, hidden money, hidden activities, corruption, debt, bankruptcies, as well as loss of earnings, decreased savings, instability of banks, and or problem with bank assets, and that particularly includes like real estate. So there may be some fighting also at the governmental level in the US over the tax breaks, financial aid, and particularly aid that may go to farmers or any sort of businesses that are associated with either agriculture or food production, or perhaps are involved in homeland security, like providing safety and security for sort of domestic population. I don't know if you should say domestic for population of the country. And let's see, and these concerns, there may also be a policy at this time in the US that is that may come up that specifically governs funds that would go for, say, police or military, or somehow for, say, purchasing of weapons. So again, something to do with like protection, but also military forces. And these same issues, so many bankruptcies, financial institutions, as well as, like I said, funding related to either farming or maybe a financial policy that affects either military or police. These same issues will remain strong throughout the entire month of September and October. And then in the early November, especially around the 6th through the 9th of November, there may actually be some governmental restrictions or some regulations put in place to either control the issue. So perhaps in September something, or in October an issue is discovered where maybe a bank or some financial institution was involved in some illegal financial scheme, and then in the early November there may be a some sort of a governmental regulation put in place to perhaps either stop that or control the money flow better, or some restriction on, basically some limitation on what the money can be spent on. So maybe some sort of quotas, like on imports or tariffs, or some other budget cuts perhaps. So some sort of limitations on, like I said, money flow, or perhaps, there was a loss reported in September, October, and then in November, again, the company downsizes, and this would particularly affect any sort of financial institutions, and or perhaps companies that are related to, like I said, agriculture or real estate or farming, where if they reported loss of earnings in September and October, then this may basically result in some sort of strong budget cuts or restructuring in early November. And so also these restrictions that may be put at that time, either by the governments or by some corporate leaders, they may actually be either legally disputed or overturned, or have some other legal ramifications. So if, for example, the import, to protect farmers, maybe some import quotas are imposed, then that, the countries that are affected, they may also basically challenge that, and or they may retaliate somehow in their own way by, imposing some tariffs as well. And basically that may then occur by late November and December. So whatever the this legal either the policy or a restriction that's imposed in early November, by late November and December, it may be either challenged, or there may be some basically response from entities that were affected that will be, they will fight back basically. And there may be additionally just late, as I said before, late September through early October, just in overall tense times with increased probability of fires, and perhaps that may result in losses, especially for the farmers and sort of any companies that are related to food producing food. Let's see, on then September 22nd through 24th, and especially the 23rd, which would be Wednesday, there may be increased news about sort of arguments, perhaps among governmental entities or leaders, about various policies, restrictions, delays that may have to do with that maybe one side feels that there's some unnecessary delays being, that one side is necessarily delaying something, or perhaps imposing some restrictive policies, and the other side will want to proceed moving forward really fast. and that may result in some sort of heated argument, protest, or even an attack. And there may also be stronger than usual winds at that time, and that may contribute to these increased fires that, again, more likely to kind of pick up towards the very end of September, and or these fires, and as far as the winds, like I said, September 22nd through 24th, especially 23rd, may potentially cause damage to specifically sports-related venues. And then finally, for the 25th, Friday, the day may see some increased news about either some prominent leaders or partners, maybe some countries that are in some sort of partnership or are discussing an agreement. However, and the agreement may be going through, but there may be arguments about the value of something or the price. So perhaps the contract is signed, but then one side is clearly benefits much more than the other. So it's not even, the benefits are not even, or the contract is not signed, or the partnership doesn't really come together or falls apart. Because again, there's a disagreement about the values, or like moral values or ethical values, or literally about the cost of something or the funding sources. So basically, disagreement about money, what something should be valued at, or where the funding will come from, or whether or not something is really worth what it seems. And that will be the focus of the news, I believe, on Friday, the 25th. And so moving on to sort of the early October, as I said, the 1st and the 2nd especially may be tense days, but then the October 1st through 11th, and that's just like a little preview, I guess, of the next week, or I guess not the next week, but the just early October, there may be significant news related to like oil, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, as well as all the other Neptunian topics such as wet weather, drugs, religion, deception, beverages, and that's again October 1st through 11th, but especially 3rd and the 4th. And there may either be news about excessively wet weather causing some damage, or news about maybe fraud or bankruptcies, and that would particularly involve transportation and communication companies, or even rain affecting transportation, for example, or problems with transportation that specifically moves something over water, or due to chemical spill or some other problems, maybe a crew gets sick, or there is a poisoning or something of those along those lines. Then October 5 through 11 may see some surprising news about financial institutions, and also kind of again heated times where there may be even another wave of protests and arguments, and again especially over governmental policies. And at that time there may also be increased probability of stormy and windy weather with like lightning, again just intensity sort of among humans, among I guess the crowds, but also it may translate, or not translate, but be manifested through weather that's also like there's storms and lightning and winds, as well as increased probability of major earthquakes. For the US, the month of October is also fairly significant. So the 9th through the 31st, and especially 21st through the 28th of October, and that's for the US, there is an increased probability of some significant announcement related to either sports or military or fires, explosions, accidents, or some tensions in international relations, be it with partners or adversaries, where there may be some escalation, and it could be just verbal, or some threats, or the US is threatened and they just have to provide some sort of response. But basically this kind of, again, tensions are escalating, and it either results in, like I said, threats, or it could be a result of some sort of an accident, or it results in an accident, or it may result in broken agreements or some tension in partnerships. And there may also be a significant announcement in areas that are related to any sort of risky gambling type behaviors. So maybe casinos, for example, or entertainment industry, anywhere where people are kind of doing kind of more crazy risky things, and especially gambling with money. And there we may hear either again surprising developments, or perhaps just new projects may be announced, new regulations, and or these announcements may either happen or involve large gatherings like concerts, or there may be even some news about like brave activity or brave rather behavior by someone who perhaps they risked their life, but then they saved something or someone, and that person is prominently featured in the news. And that's again especially strong for the US in October, especially 21st or 28th. And some new long-term predictions that I just added at my blog at thestunka.com. And feel free to visit my blog to read more about this. That's what I'm reading right now. But basically, just something that quickly jumped at me for next year, for 2021, and that's that April, August, and December may see increased news about gold prices and the value of US currency, obviously US dollar. And again, April, August, and December of 2021 may see some either tops or bottoms perhaps of gold prices, and there may be like a reversal in gold prices at the same time. And this may be related perhaps to some sort of monetary policy changes in the US at those times. And the situation may be either the same type of issue repeats at those 3 months, or it could be something that's one issue that's ongoing and maybe in April is first announced and results in again some value changes in the US dollar and also in gold prices. Then in August something is being kind of revisited, maybe not as sort of a strong overreaction may occur as was in April of 2021, but maybe it could be like a report needs to be revised, numbers need to be adjusted, the approach needs to be kind of reconsidered, some little bit more in-depth, thinking on that. And then finally in December is when the final either say monetary policy is released, that's like changes things, or a new approach, again some sort of new financial regulation, and again that may sort of then again change the direction of gold prices and or result in greater than usual fluctuation in the US dollar value. And lastly, just to kind of again put that prediction out there so it's on record, for the following year, meaning 2021, for September 1st through 3rd, and 1st and 2nd are actually weekend and 3rd is Monday, there may be increased news about oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, navy, religion, deception, poisons, lies, beverages, as well as any sort of audio and visual equipment. And again, these are all sort of Neptunian topics, so we will have increased news about that, as well as like mental health, pharmaceuticals that are specifically related to like addictions or treatments that are related to that, or navy, as I was saying, but something that is perhaps a source of either arguments or anger or basically a disruptive type of event or disruptive type of news. So perhaps oil producers not agreeing on the oil prices, or fighting that involves either countries that are oil producers, or fighting or fires that somehow affect oil production. And this may result in a large market drop, specifically on September 3rd, 2021. Or at least there may be a larger than usual market moves, but I think it will be a down day. So that wraps it up for me. I hope that these weekly predictions are useful. Feel free to also check me out at my blog at thestunka.com, and you can read these. I usually post these the day before, or certainly before I record the video, because I need to make predictions and then I can record the video based on what I've predicted. I hope this makes sense, and you'll come back and check me out next week. Until then, bye.